Welcome back to the High Vibe Honey podcast, the space where power meets peace, frequency meets finesse, and success gets to feel like soul. I'm your host, Katie Rogers, energetics, emotional alchemy, and embodiment coach for high-performing women who are done chasing and are ready to collapse time into deeper embodiment, devotion, and desire. Today's guest is what happens when eroticism meets oracle, elegance meets edge, and love meets legacy. Michelle Pound is a love and money oracle and embodiment coach who works with women ready to be the prize, men ready to lead and ravish their queen, and couples ready to play in deeper, sexier devotion. Her work moves at the intersection of energy, eros, and identity, guiding people back to their power through desire, depth, and self-permission. Whether it's a shibari rope ceremony, a seven-figure money portal, or sacred reclamation of feminine power, Michelle's world is one where turn on leads the way, and getting everything you want isn't a maybe, it's a frequency. Today, we're diving into what it actually means to be the prize and why attraction isn't the goal, embodiment is, and how to live out your desires out loud without ever needing to shrink, explain, or edit who you are. Michelle, I am so happy to have you here, and you look absolutely stunning. If you a lot are listening to this episode, definitely go and check it out on YouTube as well because you have a visual masterpiece here. So how are you
Good.
doing today?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. We're in a new month. We're in the Lionsgate portal. So I feel like we can bring some of that sexy Leo energy to our conversation, abundant energy.
Yeah. And I feel like this is just going to be the sexiest episode that we've ever had on the podcast. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, if you're listening, I hope you're having an eargasm to the
So to introduce yourself, can you tell us a little bit about your work, how you got into what it is that you do now? And yeah, I'd just love to know a bit more about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a pleasure, love, money mentor. I work with men and women who are here to worship the goddess. That's my movement. And I help women really step into the energy of the goddess and to really claim that energy of themselves being the prize, being the chosen one, instead of people who are trying to chase men or go do this to catch a man. We're not about that over here. We're about really owning your magic and your beauty and your femininity. And then I work with men who want to call in their queen, their goddess, who are ready to do the inner work to hold that type of woman because you trust me, you need training.
Yeah.
And who also are into some fun, sexy things. I'm into the spice and the kink world. I'm a shibari master. For those
Mm,
of you who don't know, you're about to learn what shibari is, which is the Japanese art of rope bondage. But I do it in a very sensual, soft, feminine way. There's no dungeons in my world.
mm,
And I also work with couples who want to build really deep intimacy. So, not just have better sex and spicier play, but also learn really powerful tools of emotional intelligence as well as erotic intelligence so that they can really deepen their relationship and things just get to
mm.
be better and sexier as the relationship evolves.
I love this so much. And one of the things I think is can be a common misconception about the kind of work that you do as well is that it involves control, humiliation, this kind of thing. Could you speak to that for a minute? Because having heard more about what you do, I'm like, that is absolutely not it.
Well, yes and no, because there is some Dom energy 100% happening in what I'm up to and what
Yeah.
I'm teaching, as well as power play. But I think
Mm,
what's really important for people to know is everything depends on the frequency that you do it in,
yeah.
right? Someone can say like, I love you, and there's like no meaning behind it. And someone could say, I love you, and you feel it. And there's a different energy. So it's the same when it comes to what I do and spicy play, which again, this is only a part of the work I do, but because we want to get some turn on some or eargasms going on this episode, I'll
Mm,
share about it. So traditionally in BDSM, it's more of a dense frequency, right? A lot of the times when people think of it, they think of like the dominatrix. She's going to tie you up and whip you in the dungeon and degrade you and tell you all the reasons why you're a piece of shit. And then maybe get up to some torture, maybe get up to some things. And we love that for those people, but those just aren't my people. That's just not
Yeah,
what I'm up to.
yeah.
So I do love power play because I think, especially for couples, it creates such a sexy polarity and it's such an
Mm,
opportunity for, I usually teach men to be more in the dominant role where they're really in their leadership and they're creating this incredible experience for their queen where she can truly surrender because desires are clear. There's a framework that I teach. And so it's just a very sexy experience. Now, I also teach women because women also kind of want to channel their Dom energy. But for
yeah.
me, being a Dom is more of being a pleasure Dom. And if you actually are a good Dom, you know that the experience is really about the sub, and you're creating and crafting a whole scene in order to really take the sub into what's called subspace, which basically is kind of like a meditative orgasmic state of surrender. It's a great place to be. If you haven't been there, you definitely want to try it. Make sure you choose a partner who's like safe, but we'll get to that afterwards. But
Yeah.
there's just different energies and archetypes that I like to teach and have my clients play with so that there's different spice and excitement in their lives. And so there's just sometimes this psychological thrill if someone is like being in that Dom energy and you get to follow along and you know they have your best interest. Like there's been conversations around boundaries, there's been conversations around consent.
Yeah.
Hopefully you've maybe crafted this scene together. So it's I think a lot of people don't have information about what actually is BDSM. What is a scene? What is a
Mm,
Dom? And Hollywood is really good at being dramatic. They're there to make money from the drama and getting your emotions all riled up. So I think the portrayal that maybe a lot of people have, it's very limited and one dimensional. And where I like to play, it's a lot softer. It's feminine. It's really about respect, consent. And then from that space, you can have all of these really juicy, exciting moments between your partner. And who doesn't want that?
yeah, exactly. And what I'm hearing in this is so much around leadership, about embodiment of your own power and pleasure and devotion. So I love all of this, what you're sharing. And I love how you were sharing that women are so magnetic naturally, and that often
Mhm.
we think we need to do something externally or change something. So can you speak to what shifts when women truly see themselves as the prize and really embody more of that magnetism?
Yeah, well, if you look at kind of how society is, and it's so funny, I can scroll on Instagram any given day and it's telling women all these things you need to do in order to get a man. And I'm just like, you don't need to do anything except exist, to be honest. At least
Yeah.
that's the frequency that I like to operate in because think about it, women are they produce children. Okay. They're like, there's a joke where it said, like if I had a wife, I'd be that successful too. Because like women just bring this beautiful natural energy of nurture. There's so much like love and magic with the feminine. And when you're really true to yourself and you really know your self-worth, you're not chasing anything. And I have this thing where I will have some of my clients I'll have them say this out loud. I'm like, what happens when you chase something? It runs away. So if you're a
Yeah.
woman and you're trying to chase a man, you're automatically killing polarity. Now, when that happens, you're not having a magnet for that energy to come into. And so, as the feminine, when you start to really just value yourself, and we see this too, right? and there's so much talk about you need like plastic surgery and all this stuff in order, you need to look a certain way, dress a certain way, be a certain way in order to be worthy. And what that really does is diminish, like it's really putting the message out there that you're not enough as you are, and you
Yeah.
need to physically alter yourself. And listen, like, no hate against anyone who wants to have plastic surgery from a place of self-love, but if you're doing it from this place of I'm not worthy and I'm not good enough, like,
Mm,
it's not going to fill the void. And so we
yeah.
have so many messages as women about why we're not enough and why we have to change, and there's not enough men. I can't even tell you how many women say there's not enough men, there's not enough men in this. Every city in the world I've been to, women have said there's not enough men.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been to over 100 cities. That's not the case. It's a consciousness, it's a frequency.
Yeah.
So I love to support women in having a completely different perspective, a different view of themselves, where what if I am enough? What if I am absolutely incredible as I am and I'm only going to get better? What if I relate to myself as the center of my universe and I'm magnetizing everything around me? And I can speak to myself so kindly and with so much
Mm,
devotion and with so much love that that pulls in the right people who love and accept me as I am, because I love and accept me, right? It always has to start with you
yes.
first,
Yeah.
because it's your consciousness, it's your emotions, it's your mindset. And so from that space, it's so much more easy to attract a man who also thinks that way, because you're already thinking that
Mm,
perspective. And so I like to shift women out of this mindset and this experience of I have to do more in order to become worthy, and really strip things down, get them
mm,
into the heart, get them into the mindset of I already am so incredible and I love and accept myself. And I invite in a man who can meet me at that level. And of course, there's like fine tuning to do in the mindset and the energy work. And that's what I work with my clients on. But I'm not having them change themselves to get a man.
yeah.
It's absolutely not it. It's like, how do you shift and grow and evolve so that you just love yourself so deeply and it feels so juicy being you? And
Mm.
then having an aligned relationship is just the result of that.
Yeah, so powerful. And what I share with my clients is in a very similar way is this idea of insourcing, right? We can outsource and point to it's going to be the next man, it's going to be the next, like, whatever you want to put it on. But even if the next partner came along and you're still thinking, I can only be liked and noticed if somebody else likes and notices me, and you
Yeah.
don't do your own inner work of like, let me like and notice myself first, you can get a ton of people like and notice you, but you're never going to feel it, or it's never going to be enough. So it's almost like you have to be full in a frequency match for the liking and noticing. And then when you do get that, then it's landed, right? It's actually you feel that deeper resonance.
Yeah, 100%. And I can even speak to, I grew up in a household that there was no self-love. We didn't even say I love you in
Yeah.
my house. When I say to
Mm.
my parents now, it's a bit of a shock to their nervous system. And there was a lot of self-criticism. Okay. I remember in my teen years, in my early 20s, I could not walk by a mirror without criticizing myself.
Mm.
And I found Louise Hay on YouTube like 8 years ago, and this concept of mirror work. So looking in a mirror and actually being nice to yourself. And I
Yeah.
remember the first time I heard positive affirmations, there was no way I could believe it, because I was so conditioned in the frequency of self-criticism that that was such a foreign concept to me. So I want to share this with those of you who are listening, and maybe they're like, yeah, it's easy for you to say because you look like this or blah, 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 blah. But I have been in a space where I 100% didn't love myself, and I would attract men who would reflect that back to me.
Yeah.
So it's a process and it's a decision every single day. And once you kind of really get into the energy of self-love and choosing yourself and really feeling yourself as a prize, then it just, you omit a different frequency. And
Yeah.
the people who show up are radically different. Like the men in my life are just so loving and kind. And there's so many men in my life because obviously I coach men and then I draw men to me who just want to do things for me all the time. There's zero sexual relationship, but they just feel so good being in my presence. And, men are natural
Yeah.
providers. So that's also something fun to think about too, where you can just have this army of subs term from BDSM, and they just want to be in service to the goddess. And who doesn't want that? I mean, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I see that as such a powerful way to evolve your relationship with receiving as well. I think even
Yeah.
you see so many people of you offer them something, they immediately want to offer back, or they immediately it becomes transactional. How do I make this up, or how do I do something back? But to just really
Yes.
sit back and receive without guilt, without an obligation, without fear of what that might mean, so changing the relationship with that, you must see a lot of people shift in their power.
It's amazing. I have this program right now called Temple of Turn On. And when you join, it's a year in my world. And so the women, there's a bunch of women in it, but they were also in my other program called Irresistible, which is about becoming the irresistible woman through 6 different archetypes that I teach. And so we've been together for like 4 or 5 months at this point, and the change in them
Yeah.
is incredible. Like the way that they're valuing themselves. Like some of them ended relationships with their partners because they knew this wasn't the right fit, but they were settling and they were finally, in an energy, in a space to feel safe and to feel worthy. And I love it. I love just seeing the transformation and how quick it can be when you're in a right container, when you're with somebody who you really resonate with, and you're like, okay, this is the clear pathway. I say sometimes, like
Yeah.
if you're going somewhere with Google Maps, you're likely going to get there a lot faster than if you've never been there and you're trying to figure it out. And
Exactly.
that's how I describe my work, because a lot of women, they have this desire of what would it be like for men to spoil me or just to do things for me because it feels good for them, and to feel safe receiving it because the men don't have leaky energy. It's clean energy, and I feel worthy and deserving. And so
Yeah.
I love bringing so many women into this portal because it truly is such a juicy, delicious place to be. And it's only going to keep getting better. So I'm like, more women in this mindset. And Mama Gina says something
Mhm.
where when it comes around being able to receive compliments. So when somebody says something to her, she says, "Thank you, it's true." And
Yeah.
she just owns it. And I love that because I also remember growing up, if I was like loving myself in the mirror or something, my mom would always say, "Oh, Michelle, you're so arrogant." And
Yeah.
wasn't encouraging my confidence, right?
Yeah.
Wasn't encouraging me to be in that relationship with myself. So there's almost like guilt or shame around the fact that I loved myself and felt good about myself. And so if you're listening and that resonates with you as well, like know that it's a journey and it's a process. If you are used to relating to yourself in a particular way, switching over to really being able to receive, every single time you're able to receive a compliment or someone buying you lunch or doing something kind for you, it's a win. And you
Yeah.
can see it as a victory. And so it doesn't have to be this massive pendulum swing overnight if you're
Yeah.
getting kind of excited by this conversation or what might be possible. But how can you every single day try to receive and open yourself? Because the feminism is meant to receive. Just like look at the sex organs, right? Men are meant to penetrate, women are meant to receive. It's your natural frequency to like lean back and receive. But if you're caught in the energy of, I have to prove my worth and all of that, it's
Yeah.
going to feel unnatural or contracted or challenging for you.
Yeah, absolutely. My relationship to receiving is something that I've only really in the last year been really more aware of and awake to, and noticing how that impacts relationships. And I was sharing with my community a story of how my housemate was trying to make me breakfast. And he's like, yeah, do you want strawberries on toast breakfast? I'm like, yeah, I would love that. It's my favorite breakfast. He starts making it. And I'm like, cool, well, I'll just start helping him chop the strawberries. And he's like, Katie, I want to make you breakfast. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm feeling like so unconsciously uncomfortable by that, that I can't just sit back and let him make it and just receive. And I noticed it and I was like, no, sit your ass down. Let this man make you breakfast and you don't need to do anything. And I think that's the thing, as you say, it is a journey and we don't always see our own patterns because we're so conditioned to follow them that it just feels true to us. So by being able to question, what is my relationship like to receiving? And I would really encourage everyone to just explore that over the next few weeks, just see how it shows up, see what it's like when somebody gives you a compliment, see what it's like when somebody wants to offer you something. And yeah, you'll get some great data collection and insight on that.
Yeah, what opened up for you in your body once you caught yourself in that
Yeah,
moment and then you rerouted, right? Because that's
yeah,
where that's where all the change happens, where you see what you're up to and then
yeah.
you pull yourself back and you allow it. So tell me, like, how did it physically feel?
It was strange because it's kind of like I noticed it and then my body was like, oh yeah, so now go and make him breakfast. I'm like, no, it's the same thing and sit down. And it did feel uncomfortable. It felt more like an anxious energy of I want to do something and I don't know how to not be doing something. And
Okay.
when I could feel that, then it was like, okay, what do you think is going to happen if you
Mm,
don't? And so it's about kind of building in the safety of there of like, it was more of a is more connected to power of like if you sit back and receive, you're giving away power to some extent. So hold your thing by then not having to owe somebody something. So when it's like you
okay.
can sit back and explore the story of what's happening, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to hold this anymore. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. I love that you share that because
Mm,
what I see a pattern when I have a lot of conversations with the women in my world is this frequency of indebtedness.
yeah.
And a lot of the times they think if I'm, especially, it's great also that your housemate is a man, right? So for the purposes of this story. A lot of the times, there's a consciousness within women. If a man gives me something, that means he wants something. And usually, what that is sex. And then I'm not safe. So I have to refuse it. So, this is a normal, unconscious pattern. So, some of you might not even know that that's kind of what is the root or what's happening. And maybe as we're sharing this, something's opening for you. And what I kind of want to share about that is the way that I look at it. And I'm like, wow, uh, these men are literally in my reality to be of service to me.
Mm,
And so it actually is the greatest gift I can give someone to be
yeah.
able to give to me. Because think about it this way too, right? If you give someone a present and you are excited about it, you thought about the gift, you're like, oh my God, they're going to love it. And
Yeah.
then you give it to them and they're like, no, 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 it's too much. And it's like they're rejecting it,
Yeah.
but you got so much pleasure out of choosing that gift for them. And then it feels shitty because that person is like rejecting it and you just want them to have it and it feels good for you. And so a lot of the time, like when people want to do something. And so, for example, for me, like when men want to do something for me, and I'll tell you a story to kind of make this more concrete. I'm
Yeah,
just like,
please.
yeah, well, why wouldn't I want them to? So, um, I have a hilarious story. So I ordered this brand of lingerie. It's called Bordel. It's a very expensive brand, and I live in Mexico. So if I get this brand shipped to Mexico, I have to hire a broker to come in because it's over a certain price point in customs. And I'm just not doing that. It's like a whole situation. So what do? I have it
Mm,
shipped to the United States and I have friends come and bring me my bordel when they come to Mexico. So I was I sent it to a friend in Texas and then I was supposed to meet up with them in New York. It just didn't end up happening. They lose the bordel for 7 months. They moved. They had professional packers. The people unpacked my bordel and they put it in her Burning Man collection. So she didn't find it until like a month ago when she started to prepare for Burning Man. So I was like, where the hell is this? Like, I don't even remember what this lingerie looks at. I ordered it November, like June at this point. We're in August right now in this conversation. So
Yeah.
then it gets shipped to Florida because I have two friends who live in Miami. So my one guy friend, he lives in Mexico City and goes back and forth. And so I was going to ship it to his house, but he was traveling to Europe. So my other friend's like, I'm going to Canada. I can take it because my family's from Canada. So I'm like,
Mm.
great. So I send it gets sent to the one guy's house, but it didn't arrive in time. So then it's stuck at his concierge. And then like last week, my other guy friend who lives in Miami is like, hey, um, where are you? I'm coming to Mexico. I'm like, oh my God, my lingerie is at this other friend's house. Can you go get it? So he drives to this person's house, half an hour drive in Miami, gets my package, and then brings it to Mexico City. But he also helped me set up my storage in Mexico City because you guys, my Spanish is lacking and you have to have all these to get storage in Mexico. Okay. It's like, it's a whole other process to get storage in Mexico because they have concerns here about what people might be storing.
Oh,
So
yeah.
then brings that plus some stuff from Burning Man that I had left in Miami last year and brings it into my storage so that when I go to Mexico City in a week and a half, I have my stuff. Okay. And this is just one example of a man showing up and supporting me and being so happy to do so. He's like, I want you to have this lingerie. I know you're just going to wear it and it's going to be amazing. And I'm like, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Now, I have so many examples of this, like guys doing things
Mm.
all the time. And also, I've noticed when I moved to Mexico, there's just like a level of chivalry that I hadn't experienced before. I've always had men do beautiful things for me, but there's something about Latin culture where men are just on it. They're on it, and I'm into it. But I do want to say, because sometimes there is leaky sexual energy. There are people who do something because they do want to
Mm.
sleep with you, and I don't receive from those people. It's very clear for me, but I
Yeah.
hold now an energy in my field where I have a positive expectation that these men just want to be in service to the goddess. And they do. So they are matching my inner reality. And so I want to share that story because it's just fun. And I always have men helping me all of the time. And it's
Yeah.
great. And they love
Yeah.
it and I love it. And if you want to tap into this energy, you'll love it too, because it's great. It's very convenient.
I love this. I keep coming back to this space of like your external world is a reflection of your inner world. In my inner world, this is how the game works. This is how it's played. This is what happens. And then you get that mirrored back to you. And as you were saying before, if your inner stories in your inner world is there are not enough men, or there are not enough good men, or men are X, Y, and Z, it's like, yeah, you're going to see that all around you because it's almost like you're creating that reality by proving yourself right by finding examples of how that's true.
Yeah, you're manifesting all those situations. So it's like you're
Yeah.
amazing at manifesting, and your reality is such a reflection of your inner world. And I'm a big advocate of Neville Goddard. I've
Yes.
read a lot of his work. For those of you who don't know who Neville Goddard is, he was a manifestation teacher, maybe a mystic, you would call him, in like the 30s, 40s, 50s. He has a lot of different books, and he talks about living from the end and the law of assumption. And
Mm.
you assume the reality that you want to be in. And so, why this is really challenging for a lot of people is because we've trained ourselves to believe what we see. But if
Mm.
something has already manifested into the world, then you don't need to believe it. There's no like muscle, there's no faith, there's no willpower because it's already
Yeah.
there. So here's an example, right? I have this lip gloss right here by MAC. So MAC came up with the idea of having a brand, of having a makeup brand first. before there was packaging, before there were stores, before there was a website.
Mm.
Someone had to have the idea. Next step, they had to decide they wanted this lip gloss. Then they had to design the case. They had to design the formula, come up with the name. They had to have somebody create the formula for them. Finally, after that idea, it gets to the store, and then I can go in and I can purchase it, right? But me being able to hold this came from many steps of
Yeah.
somebody imagining it before I was able to physically hold it. And so that's
Mm.
kind of what law of assumption is at its heart. And so it starts with the stories you tell yourself. How do you speak to yourself? Inner conversations is something that Neville Goddard talks about all the time. What are your inner conversations? And are your inner conversations really enlivening you? Are they feeling sexy, or are you arguing with people in your mind all the time? Because you wouldn't believe how many people, the conversations in their minds are arguments or
Yeah.
proving themselves or disempowering thoughts. And so when you can learn to shift things in your favor and constantly speak into what you want, it's gonna manifest for you.
Mm.
It's gonna show up. But I mean, it depends on how much resistance you have. It might take a hot second, but it's a fun game you can play with yourself. And this is really how I've created incredible results for myself, is by using one of these principles,
Mm.
universal principles.
Yeah. So beautiful. I love this. And just really normalizing as well that is innocently the case for so many of us. And actually, all of us at all levels, we all have our like inner conflict, we all have our inner arguments. And then when you can bring some awareness to that and then decide, what do I still want to hold on to? And what is it that I actually do want to experience in the outer world? And as you say, like, yeah, we put it out into the vortex as a step for this. And then, we get to move through that process to see it back. You
Together.
mentioned earlier about archetypes as well. I'm curious, can we dive into that a little bit? Can you share with us some more on those?
Yeah, of course. So I do archetypes for both men and women.
Mm.
But let's start with women because I know that's primarily your audience. And what I love about an archetype is it gives you the power, the creativity, the flexibility to try on a different perspective than your normal, regular state. And so I'll name my 6 archetypes, and then I'll kind of dive into a little bit about why I like these particular archetypes. So
Mm.
I have the queen, and the queen is the energy I spend a lot of time in. She's very regal. She's very like in her power, and she kind of has a commanding presence. Like people are really drawn to her by her power, and some are triggered, but that's okay. It just happens when you're in this queen frequency. You really know your worth and you really know your power.
Mm.
And it's just a very delicious energy to be in. Next, we have the goddess. So the goddess is a much softer power. It's more of an inviting energy. It's more of this very feminine, nurturing energy. And it brings a lot more people. It's still lots of high worth, high value, but it's softer. Then we have the sacred seductress. And I love sexy energy. I love being in seduction with light. And the sacred seductress is about seducing herself, letting life seduce her, being in foreplay with the universe, embracing her sexual energy, and really being sovereign in her sexual energy, like knowing how to use it in a way that feels delicious and exciting for her. We then have the dominatrix, and she has a very powerful, commanding energy. She's more like, you're here to serve me, like it's more demanding. And she really just knows what she wants, and there's no other option, period. The end. There's no discussion. And it's powerful to step into this energy sometimes, especially for me, as a business owner, where there are times where being the dom is very essential to be like, actually, no, this is what we're doing. Or if I'm holding a client through an experience, like being in the Dom energy so that they can really surrender, is also very delicious and amazing for them. Then we have the energy of the maiden, and the maiden is very soft, wonder, very new to the world. Everything's exciting. Every possibility is open. She's not jaded. She's very much a curious energy. And sometimes, especially, in certain conversations or with certain people, I find this archetype to be very helpful where I'm like, okay, let's really soften the energy and have almost like this childlike wonder and curiosity so I can allow the energy to flow in a way that maybe it's not going to flow with the queen. And then lastly, I have the oracle. And so the oracle is just so in tune with the universe, so in tune with herself, her intuition. She feels something, she gets a download, and she trusts it 100% without question. And she moves on that inner wisdom. And she's really in a deep relationship with herself where she doesn't really care about external circumstances. She's just focused on that inner world. And from that space, that's where she makes her moves. And that's how she allows life to meet her. So those are the main archetypes that I work with women. With men, I work with the king archetype. So I like it when men are in their king energy. And this is when they come to me to call in their queen. So they're in their power, but they're also in this energy of service. I also work with the lover. So especially men who want to really learn how to worship their queen, their goddess. The lover has an energy. You're really soft in your heart. You're really attuned. You're really present. And you're creating that love frequency so that your queen can have that softening, melting energy. I work with the warrior. So sometimes men haven't really stepped into that super masculine energy. And it's just allowing them to use the masculine in such a powerful way where they're drawing in that polarity. And then lastly, I use the magician. And so the magician energy is a man who also knows how to use his intuition, who can use attunement, who can also move with the universe and also move with the women in his life in a way that is super powerful and attuned and coming from more of the mystical realms.
Yeah, this is so interesting. I'm loving everything you're sharing. And this piece about the archetypes as well, I can see so many different parts of my life where these things have come through as well. And I'm sure you would have experienced that as well. So can you tell us more about, your story and how maybe some of this stuff has shown up to you and that led you into developing this beautiful methodology?
Yeah, of course. So, what's interesting for me is I've always been like psychic intuitive my whole life. So, that was quite uncomfortable as a child because I was always able to see things and know things that other people couldn't. And it definitely made me the weird one and the odd one out. And I had definitely gone through many different rounds of bullying and not feeling included. And so, that was really powerful for me in a few ways because I got really into reading and books. I would read at one point when I was in grade six, one book a day, like a 300 page novel. So what that really did was it really sharpened my imagination, and I was in a lot of my inner world and I was creating all these other dimensions, which kind of relates to the archetypes, right? And reading about all these characters and what they're up to, and then imagining myself from that perspective. And then as life continued on, and I realized I'm 100% not cut out for a 9 to 5 or the Matrix. It's just not what my soul came here to experience. I started to wonder what it would be like to create community because I always had this feeling that I never fully belonged. And so I was always, into the witchy magic stuff. I liked astrology, full moon, new moon, and I had psychic gifts. And so I started to kind of experiment online and share. When I first started sharing about stuff, it was so, gee, it was meditation, it was crystals, and it was talking about spirituality. And then as I kind of went along on my path and I developed more gifts, it was really clear that sacred sexuality was something that I had a lot of awareness and magic around, because I would have conversations with my friends about sex and sexual pleasure. And so many women would be so frustrated and they would feel so unsatisfied. They weren't able to connect to orgasm. Maybe they didn't even like men going down on them. And I was the opposite. I've always been really orgasmic. I always had a strong self-pleasure practice as well. And I loved oral sex. I loved receiving it. I had no shame. I was like, this is a must before
Yeah.
anything. I loved a lot of foreplay. And I was always like curious about the body and communicating with my partner. I remember having sex with a partner and he just came with no dialogue. He just like stopped kind of moving. And I said, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, I just came." And I'm like, "Babe, this is a shared experience. You're literally inside of me. I need you to tell me if you're gonna come. Otherwise, I'm gonna be honest, this feels like you're masturbating with my body."
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I have just been really clear about what I want to experience sexually. I've had worked on my communication skills over the years and also being really unapologetic about my pleasure. I think that it's so essential to be tapped into your own pleasure and to be an advocate for it, because it raises your vibration so much. It feels
Yeah.
good. And we have these heavenly bodies for a reason. So things started to get sexier in my content probably like 4 or 5 years ago. And of course, that triggered some of my community, because it's like I got a little bold. Okay. I would say things like, "My pussy is so delicious." And I mean, obviously it's true, but a little
Yeah.
bit of a shock to the system for some people who wanted more love yourself meditation. But that's the thing, right? As we grow and evolve, it's going to attract some people, it's going to release others, and it's all perfect. You just need to be really true to yourself. And I knew that message about women accepting themselves, because that's a lot about my work, right? It's about how can you really just love yourself so intimately and so fully and completely. And a lot of women who I've spoken to who have shame around, especially oral sex, they have all this judgment from marketing of society of like a
Mm.
smell or this or that, or what we talked about earlier in the conversation, that they don't know how to receive. And it feels so uncomfortable to receive and receive pleasure that they
Yeah.
reject it, or they attract men who rejected it. It's so funny. I did a post the other day because I'm running a course for men, and literally I did poetry all around like getting head from men. Let me read one for you, just
Yes,
as
please. Yeah.
like, he didn't just go down on her, he made her meet God and she's still trembling. Or like, there's head and then there's head that changes her life. He knows the difference. Because in my course, I'm like teaching men how to worship women. So it's like, this is an essential skill. Anyway, so I
Hmm.
would have conversations with women who had shame, who didn't know how to orgasm, who were faking it. And
Yeah.
I never had those experiences, and I wanted to share my experience so that it could be more delicious for women. And again, like when you're in shame, it's like, well, where is the shame actually coming from?
Yeah.
Is this actually true for you, or is this a condition placed on you by society? And are you just harboring this because you were told that, especially for people with religious backgrounds? Like I grew up Catholic, I went to Catholic school my whole life, but I always felt a little bit off about how I was taught religion because there was so much fear and shame and judgment. So I kind of opted out of that part, but I kept the parts of faith and belief and connection to the divine
Yeah.
surfaced and felt really good for me. And then, how I got into more of this BDSM world was also shocking to me, because when I first saw shibari, okay, it was introduced to me 9 years ago by my partner at that time. And he showed me this video of this woman tying up, he was Asian, but in the video it was like, because shibari is Japanese, there's this
Yeah.
Japanese woman tying up this man and beating him. And he's like, yeah, I want to do that. And I'm like, what the fuck? Absolutely not. This is so, I felt disgusted. It was so dark. And now look at me. But again, as I spoke to earlier in the conversation, everything is about your intention and your frequency. So he also had a lot of childhood trauma because his mother would literally beat him. So he was wanting to play out in our sexual life his unresolved trauma, which, to be honest, I think there is quite a bit of BDSM that does do that. And it can be healing for some people, but other times it's kind of just like a trauma loop, which is also why
Yeah.
I'm into very specific things. And so how I actually got into shibari was years ago, like 4.5 years ago. I was at a play party in Tulum, and there was all these different sections and things you could go explore. And I was with this lover, and we walked into one of the little rooms, and it was a woman, and she was teaching how to tie your lover to the bed. And I thought, ooh, this is hot. Let's try this. And
Hmm.
it was hot and it was fun. And then I met another woman who tied me, and it felt so safe and it felt so sexy. And then I met a Dom. And to be honest, his energy was a bit feminine. So I also felt safe with him. He was incredible at communicating. This is my
Mm.
first time like being in a scene. And he explained, like, this is how long it's going to take. This is the arc. These are like your signals. If you can't speak, you can tap here. Had a safe word, constantly checked in on me. And actually, the first time I was tied by a man, I thought it was going to be this super erotic experience, but it was incredibly emotional because I felt in my body. And this is the magic about the rope. When you work with it and you work with somebody who has a specific intention, it can crack you open and it can release a lot of pain, a lot of different things that you didn't even know you were carrying. And it's literally shamanic. It's so healing with the ropes. I cried this whole session. I was like bawling. He would be like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Keep going." Because to be held, like, and I knew
Yeah.
that he was going to try anything sexually with me. I knew we were having this very particular experience. He was in integrity. I could be safe. And maybe other women listening to this can relate, where it's like, you don't, if you're kind of maybe in a quote unquote spicy scene, like, you don't know if the man is actually going to cross a boundary and like try to push something on you sexually that you don't want. And so this
Mm.
was so healing on so many levels for me because I had that level of safety. I felt all my resistance to the masculine and
Yeah.
all of the stuff I didn't know because it was an embodied experience. And after that, I was hooked. I thought, wow, I want to create this experience because I already create so many different experiences for people, but how powerful it is to use these ropes as an ally. And so I went and trained with all the best teachers in the world. This past February, I was in Japan with the top teachers, and I have developed my own very specific style. And I love bedroom shibari. I love it because I feel like it's such a powerful tool of intimacy for couples, the way that you can feel safety. And, there's been different times, when I'm working with couples where I always show the ties first. I always demonstrate. And so I did it. The partner is like, she's feeling erotic. And then this one particular couple, when the husband went to tie her, she actually started crying and had a massive emotional release
Yeah.
because, like, similar to what I just shared, there was a level of safety that she accessed in her body that she had
Mm.
and the way that I teach people how to set up the container and the way that I give permission to let whatever wants to come through, like, that is what is the medicine. It's incredible. And so I'm so excited to teach people my way of doing things and being able to connect in this way because it is really powerful and really healing and so different. If I had closed my mind off completely after I saw that creepy video with my ex-boyfriend, I
Yeah.
never would be experiencing the medicine. And so that's also what I would love to share with your listeners is sometimes we're introduced to something and it is a hell no because of how it's introduced and the energy behind it. But if you have curiosity and if something is speaking to you, um, follow it, check it out, and then be like, oh, well, maybe from this perspective, yes, this actually is a yes for me. And so, and especially with sexuality, right? Safety is such a huge, important part.
Yeah.
Feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling that trust. So maybe you have one partner and you could have never really let go or surrendered with him because the container wasn't there. But with somebody else, they have the erotic intelligence, the emotional intelligence. You've evolved and it's a different frequency. So then trying new things is so much more effortless and exciting and juicy.
Mm, yeah, stunning. I think some of our core stuff, it does get projected into our sexuality. And so what a wonderful space to do your healing. And as you say, if you notice something and it's like, it might not activate anything in you. You might just be like, no, that's just not something that I'm interested in. But when you
Yeah.
feel that sense of that deeper trigger, that deeper activation, it's like, oh, there's something here for me. And how beautiful that you chose to lean in with more curiosity and find another way into it. And now you share this incredible healing modality, which is also, if you're not already following Michelle, go and follow her. It's beautiful art in this, and witnessing the videos that you share of this work, I'm like, ah, it's so beautiful, and you can really feel the healing power in it. And yeah, I love how you articulated all of that, and so wonderful to hear more of your story as well.
Thank you. Have you ever gotten tied up?
No, I haven't. But I would love to. I'm like, when I can I go to Tulum and get tied up by Michelle?
Yeah, come visit. It's a whole adventure to do a shibari ceremony. It's very delicious. Or,
Yeah,
those ladies listening, send your men to me because I have a course, Worship the Goddess, and I'm going to teach
yeah.
them inside. So
I
if
know.
you
I'm
want
like, do you do a matchmaking service as well, Michelle? Yeah,
when men come to work with me to call in their queens, it's a very different process because it's all internal. So it's like similar to what we've been talking about a lot in this conversation. And I shift a lot of help them shift beliefs, and I
mm,
teach them a lot of principles based on intuition and their own oracle or the magician more for the man.
mm,
And they're like, so should I be going to bars? Should I be doing this? I'm like, no, we focus on the frequency. We get so
yeah.
clear, queen. And so it's cosmic matchmaking, but it's different levels, like depending on how people are working with me. I have a roster of very magical people who I'm then like, ooh, you guys should meet.
Oh, we were sharing as well about how, where our core stuff gets projected and where we do the work. And, sex is one of them, money is another. And I know you do a lot of work around the kind of eroticism of money. Can you share a bit about that as well?
Of course. So again, in my theme of worshiping the goddess, how I interact with money is something called the goddess of wealth, also the god of wealth. And how I experience money is a very embodied experience where, money isn't just numbers on the screen. There's a lot of emotion attached for most people. There are some people who are completely neutral to money. Those just aren't the people that I work with because they're off doing their own thing. But a lot of the time, the reason we don't have the money that we want is because of some negative story and negative emotions that we have attached to money. So,
Mm,
whether that be shame or fear or guilt, those are kind of the main ones that people connect to money. So, money in itself is neutral and it only has the meaning that we assign to it. And so, what I like to do with my clients and in my courses is help take away all the negative projection and attachment that we have to money. Because listen, money is an amazing tool. Like even yesterday, I saw on something came up on my Discover page where a mother had just left a homeless shelter with her son and they had just moved into a home, and she did the video of his reaction. He's super young, maybe like 2 or 3. And people, it went viral, and people were like, we want to send toys. We want to help you furnish the place. And there was a GoFundMe set up. And so they had a goal to get their forever home. So I just went on and I sent money to them last night. You know what I mean? And then last week, for example, I love giving to causes in Mexico because I live here and I love Mexican people and Mexican culture. And so
Mm.
I just had this download of like, who do I want to contribute to? Education for women and children in indigenous tribes. So then I just went and sent money to them. Or, there's like, I love having it as a tool. Or there was another example where there was some drama in my life with somebody being very erratic. And I'm like, okay, you know what's going to fix this? I'm just going to send them X amount of money because we were supposed to negotiate something and they were not being clean in their negotiating. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this chaotic energy. I'm going to send this money and then we're done. And so it's like this really beautiful ally, and it's this energy of love and support. And so I like to take people on a journey because most of the beliefs people have on money, they aren't actually yours. They didn't start with you. They're very deeply ancestral. A lot of us had grandparents who were in the war at some point, World War I, World War II, most people. And so there's a lot of stress and trauma and this idea of things are always going to run out. There's not enough, and there's a deep scarcity mindset. And so those are really deep in people's bodies, and people contract. And I've heard people say things like, oh my God, I feel so sick when I have to pay my rent, or like, this is a
Mm.
silly amount of money, and it's like, why? You're getting a beautiful house, you're getting a service, but people feel so disempowered with money and how they relate to it. And then they project it onto money, and then they don't have the money that they want because they make money feel like shit in their body and their energy. And when they have
Yeah.
conversations, if we listen to the inner dialogue, probably when they go to pay something, maybe there's stress or fear, or there's a consciousness of, oh my God, now I have less, versus like, there's always more money, more always comes in. Money is an infinite resource. Money loves to support me. And, when you start to move into that energy, and, listen, this has
Mm.
taken me years to kind of get to a place of positivity with money, because it was one of the deepest things for me to move through in my life. There was so much in my family, and I had very opposing energies. Like my father's family had a lot of wealth and my mom didn't. And so there was like always resources, but then my mom shaming the resources or not feeling worthy. So there was stuff to untangle, and I didn't know any of this until I became an entrepreneur. And then
Yeah. Oh, you'll find out pretty quick.
basically being an entrepreneur is a whole just course in personal development. But
Mm.
when you can start to feel really good about money, because I also like to teach money as a lover. So for example, if you had a
Mm.
lover and you were like, oh, I love you. But then you're always complaining to your friends and how this lover is not enough and it's not good enough. And like, then there's fear and stress and anxiety. But will this lover ever come back? But I want him, but I don't. Like, the lover feels that energy. It's psychic energy. So that's money. Money feels all of your thoughts towards it, all of your beliefs towards it. So if you're in a secure attachment with money, you're like, I love you. I appreciate you. I release you because I know you're coming back and I know there's going to be more of you.
Mm.
And there's a flow, right? There's a reason why money is spoken with like water codes, right? Currency. It's a current
Mm.
flow. And even when you think of appreciate, depreciate, when you appreciate money, it grows. When it's depreciating, it declines. And so there's all these codes built into money. And when you learn how to work with it in a way that serves you, like, does it serve you to say that there's not enough money and it always runs out and money is evil? I don't know, probably not. You probably don't have a really great experience with how money operates in your life, and you probably have a lot of stress and fear towards it. Versus if you have safety, if you have trust, it feels fun and sexy, and you feel empowered, and you feel like, yeah, I can do that. I can go there, and money supports me, and money wants me to have this. But you have to really understand like what's the internal dialogue you're having, back to those inner conversations we referenced earlier. And when I teach money, it's an erotic energy, especially we've talked about receiving a lot. And so for women, I teach them how to receive money because different sums of money have different frequencies. Okay. So like $5 feels different than $5,000, feels different than $100,000, feels different than 1 million. It's higher levels of energy. So if you can't hold higher levels of energy in your body, you can't hold higher levels of money. And that's also why a lot of people, when the money comes in, maybe they lose it. I think like 85% of lottery winners lose everything within 2 years because they could increase their energy for it to come in, but then the sensation and what they made that money mean, it crashed their
Mm,
nervous system and they didn't feel worthy. And they're like, I have to get rid of all of it. I can't
yeah.
hold the energy. And so that's also why sex is so powerful, right? Because orgasms teach you to hold higher and higher energy, higher levels of pleasure. It's higher energy. And so I relate that with money so that you can learn how to hold more and it feels good because that's
Yeah.
key. If you get more and it feels like shit, you're going to want to get rid of it. And so that's what I'm up to when it comes to money. And it's pretty fun and sexy. And my clients get really juicy results.
Absolutely. Pleasure as a capacity expander has been such a game changer, especially as somebody who, going through being a lawyer and was so bought into this suffer, struggle. Pleasure is like an unessential reward, maybe if you deserve it, and so much in worth. So to really in that journey of using pleasure as not just a reward that you earn, but as a real strategy has been, yeah, phenomenal. I'm so grateful to be able to experience that in this lifetime.
Yeah, I was laughing as you were talking about being a lawyer. Like a lot of 9 to 5 is unhealthy dom sub dynamics. It's like
It
unhealthy
is,
BDSM.
yeah.
You're like in a dungeon, you're like tr doing things you don't want to, like for like, please, boss, like give me this
Yeah,
money, hurt me. Like
yeah.
that's 9 to 5 is like unhealthy BDSM in my world.
God, I totally agree
Suffering,
with you.
torture.
Completely agree with you. Yeah. I know just everyone listening is going to be so obsessed with everything you're sharing and they're going to want to learn how to stay and play in your world. So where can people find you? What do you have going on?
Yeah, of course. So my place I love to be is Instagram, and you can find me at Michelle Pound. It's Pound. It's spelt like it's sounds. And I have a lot of different courses. I have an amazing retreat coming up in Tulum for women called the Turned On Women, where we're going to get up to some pretty delicious things. I have a course called Irresistible, which teaches you about the archetypes. I have my year-long experience. So you can go to my website, michellepound.com. There's also some free stuff to dive into. You can get a taste. But yeah, many juicy, exciting ways where we can stay connected. If you feel called to me and my work, come say hi, send me a DM. I would love to hear from you and have you part of this work.
Yeah, totally. And Michelle's retreat is on my vision board. So hopefully I will see you there.
I would love that. That would be amazing to have you in the flesh.
Yes. And I hope everyone listening just so enjoyed this conversation. And if you did, please do follow the podcast, share it to your stories, tag us, DM us, let us know how you found it. We always love hearing from you. Michelle, thank you so much. And it was so powerful to have you here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And if you're ready to go deeper with me, you can join the portal, a 30-day energetic recalibration space for women who lead with power and pleasure. And I would also love to gift you my free somatic sales masterclass, which you can receive direct to your inbox when you sign up to my newsletter at katierogerscoaching.com. Check out the show notes for more.